showing up.
Awake thou that sleepest. Arise from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Good morning, Jeff, and God bless you as well, brother. Please, family and friends, give them a call. lastcallradio.live. Tell them to get on YouTube, get on the phone. You don't want to miss today's show. I love live radio. I just love live radio. We're getting ready to go on this morning, and we use a PC to take our phone calls. Okay, so what does a PC do? 15 minutes before we get on the air, it starts updating itself. Don't turn your PC off. So we can't. Right now, we're at 8% updating, so it could be a while before we can take more than one call. So 302-202-1110 if you do want to call us, and then caller code 745-353. Hey, we've got a homeschooling family. I'm really looking forward to both our guests today, or all of our guests today. I'm looking forward to talking to the homeschooling family from New Hampshire, and then our Christian commentator writer from Michigan. That's what is it? That's state up north from Ohio. That's what we call it.
That's a pretty good state. They got some good stock up there.
Yeah. That's where you're from, right?
Yeah. Kalamazoo, reckon to you.
Hey, subscribe to our YouTube channel every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern till noon. Again, contact links are found at lastcallradio.live. I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that his justice cannot sleep forever. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, that ought to scare the living daylights out of you. The kind of whooping that we deserve, that Donald Trump can't tweet. Let's be honest here, folks. Donald Trump is better than we deserve. He's what we needed at a time, but better than we deserve. And to be honest with you, if you haven't liked what you've seen in Donald Trump, find a mirror, take a look at it, then stop complaining. It could have, maybe it should have been, and it might be even worse. That, my dear brothers and sisters, depends on us, and we cannot do it barking in a parade and reinventing righteousness. And we have to do it in unity. Yeah, Trump loves the Twitter. And maybe he in the past he's talked about grabbing small cats. Do you all know what it takes to be a business owner? The gamble, the chances, the boldness, the everyday challenge of running a business. It's not like being a politician, folks. You can't hide. Most entrepreneurs, business owners are stubborn and opinionated. I know that personally because I used to be one. So I know what we're talking about here. But that's really what we needed here. Somebody that's stubborn and opinionated, somebody from the outside. You know that approximately 94% of those in Washington, D.C., which is the deep state, voted against Donald Trump. You're known by the company you keep, right? That should tell you a lot, especially if you're against the deep state. And let's be honest here, Donald Trump is better than we deserve, like I said before. And to criticize his presidency, and please, I believe this, is to insult God. And yes, I believe God put him where he needed to be. He was the right man at the right time and might still be if we can keep him. The question is, will our Creator let us keep him? We bicker, we pick at one another, we refuse to unite, we have our pet projects and won't let go. If my people who are called by my name will what?
Humble themselves.
We really don't need to go any further, folks. We can't get past this. You know, I work with several organizations, and every one of them has the answer. Join us and save the world. And by the way, that includes yours truly. All right? It does.
Yep. Save the family.
Yep. If we don't get the family right, does anything else really matter? That's my argument. Yet. And that being said, at the Natural Family Foundation, we need others. We can't do it alone. There's other related causes important to the recovery, growth, and survival of this nation. There's the arm, the finger, the leg, the eyes, the ears, the nose. We need the entire body. And we need them working together. The problem is we just can't get over ourselves long enough to set aside our supposed differences, and they aren't differences, and work together. By the way, that's what our enemy does, work together. And why are they winning? That being said, it might be noted, not the war, they're winning a lot of battles, that the single unifying factor among them is what? It's hate. And they've got envy as a backup. I've got a close relative I spoke with yesterday, and they just hate, they're a Christian, but they just hate Donald Trump. They blame him for everything wrong, and not just by America, but the world. I made the statement before, if Donald Trump could walk on water, somebody complained about his getting his shoes wet. They have no proof with regards to the hate, but they listen to CNN or MSNBC.
Oops.
Religiously, these Christians follow the likes of Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi et al. And their hate of fellow Americans and righteousness, and of course, Donald Trump. But they are united. They are united. And there's one other thing. They're committed. By the way, what's the difference between stubborn and committed? At dinner last night, I got hit with a side remark that I was stubborn. We need to learn to take that as a compliment. We really do. Christ was stubborn, wasn't he? Eh? It got him hung. But nonetheless, he was stubborn. Aren't we to do what Jesus would do? If you're stubborn for righteousness, the truth, that's commitment, folks. Or better yet, devoted. Wait a minute. What about faithful? Stubborn, faithful. Which one are you going to hang on to? How are you going to respond to that?
I ain't moving.
But I digress. Where was I? Oh, yeah. I was talking about unity. And add to that vision, and to the vision, action. That's why I'm so excited about today's show. We got some action, folks. We, the loyal opposition, seem to consistently be in a wait and see mode. Right? React. Nothing proactive. React. Always on defense, letting the opposition set the standards. Let's just see how bad it will really get. And then, of course, Jesus will come and whisk us away right? Woof. And of course, leave those other bad Christians to suffer here on planet Earth. It ain't going to work. It just isn't going to work that way, folks. Actually, it isn't working that way. Again, we get what we deserve in Donald Trump. And what we do in the next few days, weeks, I believe God is patiently awaiting our efforts. What we do with all this voter fraud, for instance, will we treat it as an opportunity like we should have with Donald, or we just continue to wait and then become barking dogs in a parade, complaining about this and that and the other? Again, we get what we deserve. With Donald Trump, with our fellow Americans, our fellow Christians, we can't continue to wait. Pick at this, nibble here and there, pray, and then wait and hope. Voter fraud aside, what are you all doing with the COVID opportunity? I said opportunity. Wait a minute, BJ, that's a problem. No. That's an opportunity. Huge opportunity to get we the people together. And God has put this right in our face. Oh yeah, wait and see, right? Well, I'm not going to take the vaccination. Yeah. Guess what? If you like eating, you want medical care, you want to travel somewhere. Well, nope, not me. I'm not going to do it. Bark, bark, bark. COVID's an opportunity, folks.
I didn't know. I thought I'd left my dog at home.
To take to take some of our freedoms back. But wait a minute, hold on. Congress may be sending me another relief check, right? So
if you take the vaccine, you might get one.
In the meantime, coming soon, by the way, good point, Mr. Anderson. In the meantime, what about all those family separations that are being caused by fear, business losses, suicides, delayed medical procedures, and other side effects of the COVID pandemic? Yeah, but Donald Trump tweeted this, and he didn't do that, right? So what are we going to do? Remember, folks, we the people are not Donald Trump. He's part of us, but it isn't Donald Trump. And we had better realize that soon. It's right in front of us. The opportunities are there. Again, it's we the people, and I'm going to repeat this. If we don't get the family right, does it really matter what else we do? We have a problem in America is we don't know the difference between right and wrong. We've lost that. We used to know there was a right and wrong. Now we don't even know the difference. And we wait on who to tell us. The government, our schools, pastors, perhaps. Been there and done that. This is up to you, we the people. I can be the most critical, the loudest dog barking in the parade, but that's not what this is about. That's not what this is about. This is about you taking the opportunity to recover America, to restore America, to help with its growth. Work with other folks. Find something in an organization that you like. Call that organization up and say, hey, I was just looking this information over. Or individuals. You have no idea how difficult it is out here swimming upstream. It's just incredible. And the enemy is nasty. They are not going to fight fair, and they hate our guts.
Want me to play that video?
Yes, I do. Here's a good example of what your enemy thinks about you, the one you're waiting on.
Keith Olbermann doesn't want us all just banned from social media. He wants us all in jail.
We also want as many members as possible of this corrupt, immoral, anti-democratic outgoing administration.
That's you, folks.
Indicted,
That's you.
Arrested, tried, and
Why
imprisoned.
isn't it
You
showing
want
on the
enough of them in
screen?
there that they can hold reunions
Don't know.
and birthday parties. You want the prison so filled with Trumps and Trump flunkies and Trump apologists and Trump enablers that we have to convert Trump buildings into new goddamn Trump prisons.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
I am not trying to start some sort of reality-based, non-paranoid version of lock them up. I am trying to get the laws of this country enforced.
Well, in Keith's defense, if we lose the Georgia Senate seats in all seriousness, then the Democrats are probably going to literally introduce new hate speech legislation, and we probably will be. The good news is President Trump's going to be holding a rally in Georgia on Saturday, and I'm sure there will be many more before the runoff in January. And I just saw a poll, I think, from Rasmussen that said something like 47% of.
Did we lose that?
No, that was it.
Okay. Hey, when we come back, I'm really looking forward to this. I am really looking forward to this. We have a family affair. We have the Burnhams coming on and friends and family. And well, I'm just gonna. We wouldn't need to take a quick break, Mr. Anderson, and go, or you want to go right away?
Go right away.
All right. Burnhams, are you ready? Better bring them on.
I'm trying. My computers. The can you click them on?
I don't know how to do that. It's
There.
we go. There we go. Like I said, I like live radio.
I don't know what's going on. It's all running really slow today.
Well, maybe the updates. It's hard to say. We used to have several Facebook pages. We don't seem to have those anymore. We're having all kind of phone problems, technical issues all over the place. But hey, I'm not here to hear myself bark or whine today. We have Claudine Burnham on the phone with us, and we have, my goodness, you want to name off who you have with us today, Claudine?
Sure thing. So we have my daughter Althea, who's 17, our friend Kayla, who's 12, Meredith, my daughter, who's 14, and Kayla's mom, Kelly.
Okay. And I understand you're a homeschooling family?
Yes, both of us homeschool our children.
And you seem to be giving some live civic lessons to your children. Is that right?
We sure are. This year has been very interesting. We started off going to every possible Trump rally when he came into New Hampshire, standing in line for hours and hours. And then obviously as things continued this fall, we started to align with the truth rallies at our state house every Saturday for 4 weeks so far.
You're wearing masks, of course, right?
Absolutely not.
Oh, what?
Because God gave us wonderful ventilation through our noses and mouths, ears, and eyes. So I think we're good.
And an immune system as well.
Yeah.
Right in with the deal. 2 for the price of 1, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And then,
go ahead, Claudine. I'm sorry.
so about 2 weeks ago, our Governor Sununu of New Hampshire decided that it was time to place in a mask mandate because just like what you're sharing, we've been going to stores, grocery shopping, because we need to get food for our family. And obviously it's Christmas time. We need to go Christmas shopping. And we're just not wearing the mask. And it's been very challenging and very freeing, and also educating people as we go through our store. It takes us a long time to go grocery shopping.
That's because you're probably getting so much applause from the people in the store, right?
No, to attacks at the deli.
Where's your mask? Where's your mask? Are you trying to kill everybody in the store today?
That's right. Yeah. But we do get people that are awakened and ask questions. So we're there to give them the answers to help them through.
Claudine, you know what I do when I go to the store? This is very, very difficult to find. So I mean, it's very difficult to do. But when I see somebody that's not wearing a mask, I purposely go over to them and I say, thank you.
Yes.
We do the same thing.
Yeah, we do
Yep.
something. We say thank you for showing your smile today.
Yep.
Yeah,
And yeah, good for you.
exactly.
And I went into a store the other day, and there was this elderly lady, and she was grumbling around about having to wear a mask, and she probably had a physical condition where she couldn't do it. And just, I mean, she even said to the guy that told her she had to wear a mask, that she was really uncomfortable with it. And I just looked at her and says, well, why are you wearing a mask? And she looked at me kind of funny. She wasn't ready to take that mask off. She was not ready. But the question that I asked her, maybe the next time that'll happen, you never know. You never know. So how long ago did you start this civics exercise with your children? How did it come about?
So when this, when the pandemic began, we took great caution. So my husband had bought us all N95 masks back in January when he started hearing things. We actually came back from a trip in Aruba and went through some pretty interesting checkpoints at the airport. So that kind of brought a lot of caution to what is going on. So when they decided to shut us down, my husband and I were the only ones going to the grocery store, and we wore the mask and we wore the gloves. So from March till about the end of April, this is how we went shopping, and we were basically the only ones. So I know what that feels like when you're the only one wearing a mask and gloves and sterilizing everything when you come home.
So you started this whole mess.
I did.
Okay.
We did not understand what was going on, and we did want to use caution because we're a large family, and my oldest daughter was pregnant, and my mother has health issues, so we just wanted to make sure that we were careful. And but then, as I think that's when Kelly came, and God brought Kelly back into my life, praise God, and she started to ask me questions and started to allow me to think beyond what I was hearing on fake news. And so, and that was Fox News. I didn't listen to the other fake news, but this was Fox News. So, and I started to research along with her. And I mean, I was overwhelmed, to be quite honest. So then we started to shop without masks for a couple weeks until this mandate.
Let me insert something here. This is scary. What we're talking about is scary. Not to wear a mask. I remember the first time I went out without a mask, I put gloves on because I figured, okay, at least I'll protect my hands. At least I'll protect my hands. And it was scary the first time I went out. And then the next time I went out, I was a little less, concerned about it. And then after about the fourth or fifth time, I actually took my gloves off. And I'm going, oh my, I hope I'm okay. And so the next time that I went out, it got easier and easier. What I'm saying to folks that are listening that maybe feel the pressure or maybe haven't even tried this yet, it's not going to be easy. As a matter of fact, it's going to be harder now because most of the folks out there are wearing the mask. But it's you have to, and I've got an article here that I may read later, but you have to recognize that if you do the research, and I mean seriously do the research, it is at least questionable whether masks work. And by the way, I think 70% of the people that are getting the COVID right now wear masks. It is questionable. It's not been proven. And they won't answer that. They will not. I've tried to get people to debate masks. They won't do it. And the more that happens and the more inconsistency comes out, the more I feel comfortable about not wearing the mask. But it's going to be difficult when you do that. But if you know the truth, and we know the truth, Claudine, we know that the masks don't work.
Right.
And you go out and you wear a mask, you are in essence bearing false witness. And Christians are not to bear false witness. Christ came to planet Earth to bear witness to what? He came here to bear witness to the truth. And when you're out there without a mask on, you're bearing witness to the truth. And sometimes it can be a little uncomfortable. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you. It's not easy. Even now, it's not easy going without a mask. It's very difficult to do. But if you're going to get your liberties back and you want to keep your freedoms, you best start doing something like that. Go ahead, Claudine. I apologize for interrupting.
Yep, no problem. So it just reminded me, thank you, that when I was the only one and my husband were the only ones, and maybe 2 other people in the whole store wearing a mask. I remember now that I saw, why aren't more people wearing masks if it's so bad? And Fauci said, well, you don't have to wear one. We saw the Surgeon General, oh, you don't have to wear one. But I thought, if it's that contagious and people are dying, why aren't people wearing masks? And I remember just going through the store thinking that, and it took a long time, because we were shopping for my family, my mom, my daughter and her husband, and another elderly friend. I mean, it took me probably almost 3 hours wearing this mask. I get out of there and I just thought, oh gosh, how are we going to do? How long? How long is it? And I thought, nobody else is doing this. Why aren't they doing this? But really, when I started to research and and it's really hard to find this material now, because but back then, I mean, even on the box of the N95 mask that I had said it does not protect you from viruses. So I'm thinking, then what are we doing? And all this information about the percentages and who's really dying and are people recovering, and we start to get that data, I just thought, there's something wrong. And that's when things started to open up. So, and then more information was coming through, and of course everybody's like saying it's conspiracy, and that's when things started to get mixed up between what is real and what isn't. What is the truth?
Yep.
And what I was finding for what I believe is truth, because the ones that are dying, unfortunately, are the elderly in nursing homes. We are, we're not open as a state because 7 elderly people died in nursing homes. And my question came up, I was praying about it today. I'm like, why? Why is this happening? Who brought that to the nursing homes? All these people are getting tested. If they're all getting tested and they're not at work, then how are these elderly? I know I'm jumping the gun here, but that was just on me today. I'm like, how are these elderly getting sick?
Yeah, amen, amen. So you started out with the mask.
Yes.
Now you've done a 180.
Yeah.
And it's thanks to Kelly, right?
Well, actually, I was a little afraid at first also, especially when I saw her wearing a mask, because I'd see her at the store and be like, oh my goodness, what's going on? But actually my 12-year-old daughter was doing major research, and she's like, Mom, it's a lie. They're trying to control you.
Wow.
And I was like, no. I saw people falling dead in China. And she was like, no, Mom, you got to listen to God.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
My goodness. Good for you. Good for you. I want to get the young girls in here. We're probably going to have to take a break here in about 3 minutes. But I want to get the story from, okay, you've gone from the stores, the businesses, and now you're into the political arena.
Yes.
How did that jump happen? And isn't this child abuse, what you're doing to your children, forcing them out like this to get all that rejection to swim upstream? Come on.
Doing it to me.
Because they
babes.
That they have the conviction of the Holy Spirit, and it is not up to me or Kelly to hold them back if God is using them.
Amen.
Boy, that is great stuff. That is so telling, because we as parents don't have all the answers, and sometimes, like Mr. Anderson said, out of the mouth of babes. It's just incredible. We can get kind of confused with things. Can we take a quick break, Mr. Anderson? Then we come back. I'm dying to talk to the young ladies back there. And I'm sure they want to get in on this conversation.
Yeah.
Hey.
Last call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
As I started to say, from Mr. Anderson, my producer rudely interrupted me. This is BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. I hope you're enjoying our conversation this morning. We have a couple mothers, and wait a minute. Is Gary around? He's hiding behind the camera. Gary, if you're hiding behind the camera, let me tell you something, brother. If you think that I want to do this every Saturday morning, expose myself like I do, if you think that running the Natural Family Foundation and catching all the grief and all the rejection, if you think that's something I want to do, no, it's not. So you're going to have to step out from behind the curtain one of these days, brother. I want to encourage you to do so. It's a family. One man, one woman, lifelong committed monogamous relationship with their children. And I'm loving it. All right, young ladies, your parents, what they do, just put you in a car and open the door and drop you off in downtown New Hampshire and just say, okay, go for it. See what kind of trouble you can get into. How'd you get the game?
Well, not really. My brother-in-law, actually, Brennan, he is very political. He's very involved. And I want to say because of him, we've gotten very, very involved and we're very aware due to the information that he was giving us of what was going on and what we should, stand up for and anything else. And so we went ahead and we went to the truth rally for the first time, and everybody was speaking, and I was like, oh, that's so nice. And I was like, oh, maybe we should try it. And but I kind of dragged these two up there with me because I like doing things as a group until you're comfortable. And then Kayla's like, and then I think it was Kelly that wanted to read some Bible verses. And I was like,
the imprecatory prayers.
That prayer. And they're like, sure, we'll make a whole show out of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no idea what I was going to be saying. We pray every time before we go up. And I'm just like, well, Lord, if you want me to go up, then give me the words. And so I go up and I'm just filled with the anger of God. Like, I need to say this now and I need to get the truth out. And sometimes I don't even remember what I say after I'm done speaking because it's really all from the Lord. And he just tells me what to say and I just say it very boldly and loudly. And then the girls here, I'm so proud of them because they say the Bible and they recite verses and they do a really fantastic job at that too. And every week they always astonish me because they're such hard workers and they really want to do a difference. So.
You have no idea about how encouraging you are. By the way, who was just speaking there?
Me, Althea.
Althea? And who are your friends that you referred to?
This is Kayla and then my little sister Meredith.
Okay.
That go up with me when I go and yell at people and talk the truth.
What kind of reaction have you gotten from the crowd?
Very positive. Very positive. I've had a lot of people come up to us and they're like, you're such an inspiration. And like in my head, I really don't think that. I'm just saying what the Lord wants me to say. But we inspire a lot of people. And if we're doing that, that's all that matters to me. If we get the truth out and if we give all the praise and glory to the Lord, then that's all that we need to do. And if he wants us to do more, then we'll do more. It would basically just going where the Lord leads us.
Okay. I understand one day when you were downtown, you followed the governor home.
Well, yes, after he made a mask mandate. Brennan, my brother-in-law, he organized a little visit to go see the governor. And we had a big group of people, I think at least 100 people. And we all went there and we all started chanting and I went up there and started yelling again. And it was a really good time. And then we kept on doing it for, I think, two weeks.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good. It's good to see people out there who are on our side, who don't want the mask to be mandatory.
You mentioned yelling. There's a question, is there a right way and a wrong way to do the right thing? And we really don't know whether you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. What you are is doing. And that is the key, because you're not going to learn anything unless you run that play. Mm-hmm. And once you run the play, then you'll know next time, okay, I have to make an adjustment here, whether it be in basketball or whatever sports you play, make an adjustment. And then the next time you run that play or next time you do what you need to do, you'll go, well, wait a minute, this happened last time. I need to go over here and do that. So what you're doing boldly.
Mhm.
It may be loud. I don't care, but you're doing it boldly.
Yeah.
And as you progress through life and you progress through this process, you are going to learn so much. Now, I want to give you fair warning. I've been at this over 33 years.
Mhm.
And I make the statement that God loves me enough to let me lose all the time, because I don't learn a thing when I win. I just don't learn a thing. But when I lose, I learn a lot.
Yeah.
So God loves me enough to let me lose a lot. So what I'm saying is, I'm not threatening you, but I want you to be encouraged, because you're not going to win every time you go out.
Oh, yeah.
But you're going to learn from those times that you don't win.
Mhm.
But nothing's going to happen unless you go.
Mhm.
And this is, we bill ourselves as Do Radio. And that's why I'm so excited about having you all on the program today, and Robert for the next hour, is because you're doers. And it's kind of like parenting, right, Mom? There is no manual there. You just kind of do it. And you also have other people. You're going to become the experts. People are going to start coming to you and going, how did you do that? Or they're going to be watching you right now. They are watching you right now and see how you do that. So you're all to be congratulated. Now, don't get prideful. Don't get prideful here. Okay. And I know you won't. I know Mama take care of that. But I just can't tell you how encouraging it is to hear you tell your stories, especially when I run around in the town I run around in, and nobody's doing anything. And ideas are dying for lack of second. You all are seconding the notion, and you have no idea how encouraging that is to folks that have been out there doing things, to the folks that are in stores that we're okay. I don't know whether I'm going to wear a mask. I don't believe in wearing a mask today, but I don't know whether I've got the courage enough to wear one or not.
Yeah.
And there's probably been situations where you've gone through a store or you've been out in public and somebody wore a mask and took that mask off.
Yeah.
I'm betting that happened.
Yeah.
Yes, it has. And that's what's a really good positive feedback, because if we're just going there without a mask on and showing that we're not afraid, it really it wakes people up. And the workers that are at Market Basket actually recognize us every time that we come in, and they actually are pretty supporting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure a lot of them are looking forward to seeing you. They would be disappointed if you didn't show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mom, where do we go from here? I mean, what are we going to be running a 17-year-old for office here?
Maybe. So,
Whoa.
Going back to starting doing, that was, when we were learning about all this information coming out about the virus and how contagious and how deadly and all of those, which it's a virus. We're moms, our kids have had viruses since they were babies, and it's concerning, but I never, put a mask on to take care of them or to go in public because I had a sick child. So we had all these, like, what do we do? What do we do? As Kelly always saying, like, I'm like, it's got to stop at the mask, because what is after the mask is even worse. So
What do you mean? What's worse after the mask?
In order to get the mask off, we have to get the vaccine.
Oh.
So, and this was probably back in June. Yeah. And I'm telling you, God was so good, because we were having struggles in our church with the truth. And we met, God introduced us to some new people in our lives and started this amazing prayer group every Saturday night. We would meet at a campfire outside and just learned a whole new way of praying to our Lord and the conviction through that. So through that, we were praying about getting the truth. How do we get the truth out? How do we start with the mask? And we were using ourselves as examples when we went out. That was the only thing we could do. We couldn't do field trips anymore. The kids couldn't work unless they wore a mask. I couldn't work unless I wore a mask. So we're like,
Get tested.
And then get tested and all these things. So we used our own selves as examples. We actually had a homeschool prom that was delayed 3 times. And this prom is throughout New England. We have students from all over that come. And last year, we had over 150 students that came. And so this year we were very tested, but we stand firm. And we had a prom successfully in August. And that was the first time where we were being led as an example, because we were told to wear masks. So we have all these beautiful teenagers, celebrating their accomplishments for the year or graduating, and they're in dresses and tuxedos or suits, and they have these masks on. That was so concerning to me. So, and of course, I understand that this is before the mandate. So this was mandated by the Marriott. And so we were like, okay, well, how do we get this off? And so I talked to the other parents, our chaperones, and we said, we need to lead by example. So and the only little mask that we made were these little chiffon coverings. People, you absolutely need to wear a face covering. It doesn't tell you what kind. Mm-hmm. So we had just chiffon, which is, if you know what chiffon is, it's very free, you can breathe freely. It's beautiful. I mean, you can decorate it and whatever, but that's what we wore. And so we took them off and we started walking around, and it made the people there very nervous that we were doing this. But you know what? When you have power in numbers, all those people left.
Yeah.
All those people, the workers that were telling us to put it on, left. And we had a fabulous evening at the prom for these kids. So I said, we have to lead by example. We need to get out there. We go in teams. We don't go by ourselves very much, because that's when the persecution begins. So we go in teams, and we lead by example. We do. And some people are very concerned. I had a woman, she was after me at the deli, which of course you have to wait forever at the deli, right? So she asked me why I wasn't wearing one. And I said, because I'm not sick and I don't need to wear one. And she then continued to ask questions. And I then turned around and said, since when have we ever had to wear a mask when we had SARS, Ebola, people waiting for the deli started yelling out different viruses. I mean, it was great because I get to speak very freely because I don't have anything trapping my voice. And I think everybody heard me.
Yes.
And so, and she just didn't know what to do. She just kept on putting me in a category. She says, what about your children when they go to school? And I said, I homeschool them, always have. So she's like, oh, you're one of those. Or, so who's your authority then if you don't listen to the state? And I said, God is my authority. And then she said, oh, you're one of those. And I said, keep putting me in a box, lady. You'll find out soon enough.
Wow. Wow. Well, hey, we're talking to Sam and Claudine Burnham, the family, and then Kelly and her family. And we're talking about activism, folks. We're talking about doers. And we so desperately need that in America today. Look, compared to other nations, the poor in this nation are like kings and queens in other nations. We are so spoiled rotten.
Yeah.
We got a roof over our head. Some of us are eating more than regular. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And we don't want for anything. And it's a blessing, but a blessing that we seem to be turning into a curse. Because we will do anything to keep that. Okay, I'll take the vaccination. I don't want it. I don't believe in it. But I want to keep my lifestyle. Change is threatening. I don't want to change. No way. There's just no way I'm going to do that. And as Christians, we need to lead the way here, folks, because we know the truth. And like I said before, we need to witness to that truth. I've got an article that I talked about before. We do need to bear witness to the truth. I think it is John 18:37. Pilate therefore said to him, "Are you king then?" Jesus answered, "You say that I am king. To this end was I born, and for this cause came I into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone that is of the truth hears my voice." And as Christians, we have to bear witness to the truth. We're going to take a quick break. You got that little meme there, Mr. Anderson, that we can do our little mask thingy?
Yeah.
Again, we're talking with the Burnham family and friend Kelly. B.J. Edwards along Mr. Anderson, your last call.
Takes me a second here.
Okay. Live radio.
Well, it's technology too.
Yeah.
We know you have a lot to remember these days. But please remember that you need a mask in public spaces.
Forgot my mask.
Guys,
Got my mask.
Forgot my mask.
Don't forget your mask. And if you see someone who did, don't forget to look all judgy, but with your eyes.
Really?
What we face out there is just incredible. I've got a quick story I want to run by, and then we can close out with your comments on this.
So what we were able to do is to go out to an online auction site and buy.
I have no idea. I thought you were going to throw something extra in there, no charge. There's an article this week about a Christian woman who's suing Starbucks. And the bottom line is that she refused to wear pro-LGBT shirt. And there's a great deal. Betsy Freeze is who it is. It's in Newark. And it goes through the story about having to wear the shirt and refusing to wear the shirt. And then the company Starbucks saying, well, they're going to let her go, but trying to say it's not really about wearing the shirt. But here's the question, folks. If this was about a mask, how does that change the story? To me, it doesn't change anything. She's still testifying to the truth, right? Only it's a mask as versus promoting transgenderism or promoting homosexuality. To me, it should not be any difference. We have to bear the witness to the truth, regardless of what that truth is. And I don't think we can pick and choose on that subject matter. What do you say, ladies? You agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We've got a couple that we haven't spoken to yet. So are we bashful and shy and we just go out in public and cause all kind of trouble, and then we get an interview, we don't say anything? Come on, ladies. Let's hear from you. Your name?
My name is Kayla. I'm 12 years old. Ever since this COVID pandemic, what do you want to call it, happened, I really wanted to start looking into like more how unconstitutional it is to make people wear a mask. And recently I found Amendment 14, Article 1 says that no state can prohibit a person from their their liberties or freedoms. So if you look that up, you can see that that's true. And I wanted to see how them making us wear a mask is really it's unconstitutional, and it's really ungodly too, because some people like us, it goes against our religious beliefs to wear a mask.
Yep.
And it's very wrong. So that's one thing that bothers me the most about it. Yeah.
And the young lady next to you, your first name?
I'm Meredith. I'm 14, and I've been not wearing a mask since, was it April? Right? And so we've been against that for a while. And this month and last month, we've been trying to speak out the truth to everyone in the stores, and we're just finding more and more information of what's actually going around. And so we want to open people's eyes and to not be sheep. And I really think the mask is just for control, like to see how far people go. And we're trying to stop that.
The Bible Bill says, I love a woman that can quote the Constitution. Good for you. By the way, right is right, even if no one is doing it, and wrong is wrong, even if everyone is doing it. Doesn't change what it is. So today you're talking to us from the warmth of the home, and we were hoping to get you, and I'm still going to hold you to it. I want to see you ladies in action. But I understand that I was getting all built up for what we're going to see today with action, and then the weather. If it's not COVID, it's the weather, right?
Totally unexpected. We're supposed to be getting over a foot of snow. So where people are traveling from all over the state to visit our lovely governor at his personal home, by the way, that, we just wouldn't able to get that accomplished today with the weather and everybody's safety. And the same with the continuation of the Truth Rally at the State House. That was on our agenda as well. But certainly we'll be back at it and we'll let you know. One of the things I did, this was very positive. The last shopping experience that we went to this past week, usually we'll see 2 or 3 people not unmasked, and we certainly go over to them and talk with them and support them. But this time we saw probably a dozen, and one woman actually saw me with her mask on, and she was stunned. And she says, "You're not wearing a mask." And I said, "No, I don't need to." And she says, "I hate this thing. I can't breathe with it on." I'm like, "Then take it off."
Yeah.
More sick.
Bad influence. Bad influence. You probably homeschool your children. You're probably a Christian. Yeah, I know.
I might be saving her from tuberculosis, so I'm not thinking of a bad influence. However, so I said, our governor has provided us exemptions, and number 1 exemption on that list are educators and students, and it doesn't say where they are. Okay, so everything's in the wording, people. So I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, and my children are students. And if our only field trip is going to the grocery store to help educate people, then we are using that exemption. The next one is if I have a mental illness. Well, then maybe people think I have a mental illness for not.
You're a Christian, for crying out loud. It comes with the territory. Go ahead.
And so when people say you need to wear that, and I have a health issue, and she says, "Oh, you all have a health issue?" Then I haven't been able to use it, but I am so prepared, because it is a HIPAA violation for anyone to ask you what your health issue is. If people were aware of that, they would understand that when they were asked that question, that person could actually be sued for asking a HIPAA violation question.
Yep.
And I have that whole list. I shared it with a whole bunch of people. This is what can happen if you want to continue to ask. Up to $1 million within a year if people want to keep asking about your health condition. And then what is wonderful in this exemption list is right at the bottom, the governor was so wise to say all these things. And also, if you cannot breathe wearing a mask, I can't breathe when I wear a mask. It makes it really hard. So there, I use that exemption as well. And really, nobody can do anything about that.
I do have what you call a medical reason for not wearing a mask, and I haven't got to this point, but it's possible that I could walk into a place and they say, "Well, you have to wear a mask," and I'd say, "Well, okay, I'll wear the mask, but you might want to call EMS," and they're going to go, "What?" "Yeah, call EMS, because if I wear this mask for any extended period of time, I might get arrhythmia, I might choke. So go ahead and call EMS. I'll wait, and then I'll put the mask on."
Yeah,
I haven't done that, but I've toyed with the idea. Kelly, when you first got involved with this situation with your friend who was masking up and gloving up, how it took a little bit of courage to do what you did, didn't it?
Well, actually, when I saw her do this, my daughter and I would go into stores like there was a bad plague. So we would go in like fishing hats and masks that covered our whole face and goggles and gloves just to be funny. Like we would do it because we're like, Well, we know we're on surveillance at all the stores, so if we can go in and be in complete disguise, then we're going to do it. And we would actually do it to be funny. So be looking at us like, what? And we wouldn't match. So we tried to stand out as much as possible so that people would talk to us so that we would tell them that this was all a lie.
Okay.
And we have been stopped at the door. BJ's is one of them. They were pretty, they're set up and they want us all masked up. So sometimes we have a shield, but we use the shield as a form of messaging.
Yes.
And Kelly came up with it. It was great. Her mask said, what did your mask say, Kelly?
This is not what freedom looks like.
No, cool. Very nice.
They duct tape it to the point that you can only see their eyes, but everything else has lettering on it on their shield.
Interesting.
And mine would say, Jesus is coming, repent.
Okay. Okay. The young lady that got up and got her cell phone, do you have something you want to share on the cell phone?
What I was saying about Amendment 14, Article 1 is this is what it reads. No state shall make or enforce any law which will abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.
Okay. Sounds like we're having sound problems here. Bill says there's sound problems, 11:54. Anyway, I hope we're coming across okay, but it wouldn't be unusual if we don't. Do it all. So at this point, we got about 4 minutes left. Anything that you can share with us that you have plans, or is this all stealth? You can't really share what you're going to do next.
Well, it's interesting because we never know what God has planned for us. We're ready. We pray for wisdom and we pray to be obedient and we follow the next lead. I mean, we have ideas, but we don't jump on them till we know they're confirmed.
I've got a note here from Eric. These kids need to link up with groups around the country who care about the future of America and will work to reduce representation and constitutional law enforcement by the people. Interesting. Have you had opportunities other than with myself or Coach? But have you had opportunities? Other organizations, have they contacted you and said, "Hey, we'd like to talk to you about what you're doing"?
I was actually on a radio show. It's called Point of View with Barnes. That was last week.
Yeah, last
Monday.
Last Monday, yeah.
Yes, and I was on that. And then I had a couple other people with other organizations that wanted to have me involved with them. I have yet to make a final decision with them, but that'll soon be coming, I guess.
Right. Right now, some organizations are gearing up for the Jericho March, which is next Saturday in DC, where they'll be marching around, I believe, the mall and three times. And so we're just kind of waiting to see how that turns out, or if that's something that the Lord is going to allow us to be part of. It's a bit of a drive. And so we just want to make sure that we're doing what the Lord wants us to do. But yeah, that's about where we're at right now. I mean, every day is a new find for us. God leads us and we just practice obedience to do that. I did want to share, this isn't just happening at the grocery store. I've had issues with a church that I've been involved with for over 20 years, and either as a youth leader or in some type of leadership position, but as well as just worshiping and being there. And part of leading the worship team was to stand and worship, and our church has done its best. Unfortunately, they've carried, the leaders of the church have carried their authority to the next step as to not allowing us to stand and worship. And it just broke my heart to sit in church knowing that I could stand to worship our Lord every Sunday. And so we just found it incredibly difficult after about 4 weeks of that. And so we started to stand.
Well, we'll have to let you finish that story. We're going to have to go to a hard break. Ladies, we really appreciate you coming in this morning and talking with us. It is just astounding. I am so impressed by what you're doing. Don't get your head swollen up, okay? You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Don't get excited. All right. You're just doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You're looking good because nobody else is doing anything. So don't get so proud. All right. Hey, really appreciate you. And Kelly, appreciate you for coming in with us. God bless all of you. Thanks for being on the show today, and Godspeed, ladies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
God bless.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Hey, this is you want to take them off, Mr. Anderson, or can you? There you go. There you go. Very good. Very good. Hey, we are back. BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson with our normal technological challenges. We just heard from some young ladies that are very, very involved in the culture war. And like I mentioned before, I've been in this for over 3 decades. And it's swimming upstream whenever you're going to righteousness. And it's not gotten any easier. The stream has gotten, well, the water's gotten really messy.
Murky.
Yeah. Okay. And the stream has gotten stronger. But that just makes you stronger. And you never know. One of the things that I have been blessed with, and I mentioned earlier that I lose a lot and I learn from that. That's one blessing. But I get to meet some incredible people. And God puts these people in front of me. And as I progress in my walk, I start seeing things. And I start noticing things that I normally wouldn't notice. And our next guest today is an example of that, because I ran into Michael Massey in I believe it was in Nashville, Tennessee, several years ago. And Michael Massey is a pastor. He's a commentator. He's an author. He has a website, michael-massey.com, and that's MYCHAL-Massey, MASSIE.com, michael-massey.com. And I like to read his articles, but he has guests and regular writers. And one of those writers is Robert Soho. And Robert, actually, and I won't hold this against him because he has moved. Robert was born and raised in California. He is ex-service, 5 years in active duty, United States Air Force, honorably discharged. After his service, he got an associate's degree in practical theology, and he developed a deep love of his country and sincere appreciation for the value of liberty. Liberty is critical. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there you find liberty, folks. Robert's been married for 20 years. He has 4, he calls beautiful Texas children because he moved to Texas. Then he moved to Hillsdale, Michigan, which brings about some current events that are happening there. And we're going to talk to Robert a little bit about Michigan, probably a lot about Michigan. And he's worked for 5 years in Michigan. He moved to Michigan so he could put his children in Hillsdale schools. And Hillsdale is incredible. They are an oasis. That's the only way to describe it. And I assume I've been to Hillsdale once, but it's been quite some time ago. But the town itself is affected by Hillsdale College. And people like Robert that move there or that grew up in the area are a blessing to this nation. Robert's most recent claim to fame, and I love this about Robert, he's a writer, he's a homeschooling parent, and he's also the newest city council member for Hillsdale, Michigan. Why don't you bring Robert on for us, Mr. Anderson? Robert, welcome.
Hey, good morning. Thank you.
And I hope you enjoyed our first segment. It's a hard act to follow, brother. So you got your work cut out for you.
Absolutely. Those girls and their moms are inspiring.
Yeah.
And I love that they have the courage and the tenacity to go forth maskless and proclaim, I don't have to wear one. You don't either. Take it off. It's wonderful.
Well, what do you think? What do you think about that article I wrote about Starbucks, the lady that didn't refuse to wear the T-shirt and was fired? But I asked the question: what if that was a mask? Would
Right.
we get the same effect? It'd be a different story, wouldn't it?
So the whole mask thing, and the girls alluded to it when they were speaking, what comes next? What has the government so easily conditioned the general population in this country to willfully accept and easily accept as an encroachment on our liberty and our ability to make decisions for ourselves? I wrote about this a few weeks back. I said, give me information that I can trust, that's trustworthy and that's true, and let me make a decision for myself. Tell me the efficacy of masks, what the benefits and the potential dangers are, and then I'll decide for myself whether I want to wear one or not. But don't force my hand. Don't force my hand and require me to do that, not as a free sovereign of these United States. That should never be a dictate from the powers that we've elected. The servants, that we've elected, because they're supposed to be our servants, right?
You better remember that.
Got to do some self correction there on occasion.
But it's look, people died, gave their all for the liberties and freedoms that we have in America today. They didn't come cheap.
They did not come cheap.
It cost to keep them, and to toss them out the door like we have. I'm astounded that we haven't asked for more quote unquote proof. And Robert, I remember when on a show about January, February, I think March of this year, I started doing some research because I knew I could see this growing, the mask growing. I could see the liberties being lost. And I'm going, okay, let's ask some questions. I went to the CDC and I'm going to look at the number of flu deaths for last year.
Oh, right.
Compared to the number of COVID deaths for this year, because it would be a fair comparison. The first thing I found out from the quote unquote CDC, the authority, the one that we have to pay attention to, was that the number of flu deaths was somewhere between 26,000 and 52,000. And I'm going, what? Wait a minute. What do you mean 26 to 52? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Was this for 2019 or this year?
2019. Mm-hmm. And what do you mean a range? So I dug deeper, and what they did was estimate through modeling and through other sources. They really didn't know. They really didn't know what it was. And I'm going, wow, I got a problem here. I have no standard to start with.
Right.
That makes it difficult for me, easy for them, because they can change that standard anytime they want to. They can make that figure read anything that they wanted to read. And then you heard mask on, mask off. And then I'm going, well, wait a minute. If you can get this through the eyes, how come they aren't requiring goggles? Why just a mask? No, I'm asking intelligent questions. Go ahead.
No, and why aren't the masks treated as hazardous waste?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, we just toss them. You see them strewn in the streets.
Yeah, true.
If they're holding a deadly, highly contagious virus within their fibers, we need to have, those red, these are medical waste boxes, distributed throughout our communities.
Yep.
If that's true, which I don't think it is personally, but
go ahead, Robert.
No, I've been an ardent and adamant anti-masker from the beginning. I wrote about this months ago. I said, how is it that we adopted a communist regime's response to a alleged pandemic, which, you were speaking about deaths. I wrote about that again back in September. I actually did the numbers. I don't remember the website, but it was a recognized website that does deaths, average death tolls that happen throughout an average year. And I did it for the United States, and I did it for a global estimate. And it was the 302nd or 303rd Julian date of the year, which was about 82.8% of the year if you divide 303 by 366, right? Because we're in a leap year. And then I divided the number of deaths that day for the year by the average number of deaths for the year, and it was 82.5%. So we, back in September, and I'm assuming, as of now, they're the curves are the same unless they had a Biden jump in November, which might have happened. Because you just never know these days. There could have been 130,000, deaths infused into the curve at 4 a.m. To give it a jump, and then the curve would stay the same.
But by the way, somebody asked about Michael's website. It's MYCHAL -Massey MASSIE
Right.
MASSIE.com. Michael MYCHAL -MASSIE.com. And we're speaking to one of their writers, Robert Soha.
Soha.
So,
Yes.
Mr. Soha.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No worries. It's okay.
City Councilman.
Yes.
Soha.
Yes. So I ran.
Go ahead.
We moved up to Hillsdale in 2013 from Fort Worth, Texas, and as you said, to put them in Hillsdale Academy, which is a private school that's attached to Hillsdale College. I have 4 children, and my wife did homeschool them. I was the principal; she was the professor for 6 years, but we reassessed it every year. And in 2013, we decided, well, actually in 2012, we decided to stop homeschooling, and we put him in public school for a year, and that was a disaster. I ended up pulling my oldest son, who was in the 6th grade, out of the school district. It's a long story, but to condense it, basically, I confronted the school on some of their way that they handled Facebook with the students. And the school just said, thank you for bringing it to our attention. But I offered to help them come up with a solution and a plan, and they ignored my offer, and they just said, thank you for bringing it to my attention. And I said, well, I want to withdraw my son. And they said, go down the hall to the right. And I went down and withdrew my son, because it's my responsibility as a parent to raise my children. It's not the state's responsibility.
Wait, hold it. That's a little archaic. That's a little passé. Maybe you don't understand that the government is your daddy. Your daddy.
I said it before, and I want to just gently remind you, Bill, that we are the sovereigns in this country. The government is our servant, and we get to hold them accountable by voting them into or out of office. The challenge with that is that we have an uneducated populace who isn't willing to dig deep and understand the issues, who has ridden on the wave of liberty that our forefathers bought with their lives, that those 55 signers pledged their lives, 5 of whom gave that ultimate sacrifice, some of whom lost all their property. Robert Morris, who died in poverty because he financed the battle that Washington beat Cornwallis with through his own private debts, and the country never paid him back. And he couldn't repay his debt, so he ended up going to debtor's prison and getting released and dying a pauper. And this man signed, his life. He said, our lives, our fortune, our sacred honor, that he put his hand to that instrument. And that, how inspirational is that? Would that I have the courage to make those kind of bold declarations and stand firm until they put my body 6 feet in the grave. What's that?
What do you think he'd say about mass?
Very eloquently and very forcefully, they would all tell us that, they'd throw the masks in Boston Harbor. Let's say that.
There you go. We'd have a mass party instead of a tea party.
Right. The Boston Massacre. Oh, the Boston Massacre.
Yeah. Massacre.
Massacre. Yeah.
The Bible talks about a mark, but maybe they misinterpreted. Maybe it was a mask.
Well, I mean, it's the first fruits of it, I think. It's a conditioning, definitely, of society, especially with the scanners that they point at the forehead.
Yeah.
That is alarming. I refuse. I had to call on another municipality, not Hillsdale, that I'm been elected to council on, but another local municipality, and to get into the meeting, they had to do that, and I almost walked out. But it was important that I was at the meeting, so I allowed them to scan my forehead. But I mean, that's very troubling at the least.
We're going to take a break here. After we take a break, I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everybody else that dives into this exercise that we're doing, and I'll give you a chance to think about it. But what in heaven's name ever possessed you to jump into this battle? Because I'm sorry, unless you're masochistic, this doesn't make any sense.
The political battle?
Answer that question after the break. B.J. Edwards along Mr. Anderson. This is your last call.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
With effective vaccines on the horizon, people are getting ready to finally see an end to the COVID-19 pandemic. Officials are now thinking of how to best prepare for the next global pandemic, which most settling on just going ahead and stripping people of their rights. If there is one thing that stops an effective response to a pandemic, it's liberty, said California Governor Gavin Newsom. This is from the Babylon Bee, by the way. People thinking they're free to do whatever they want would just lead to more deaths. So even when everyone is vaccinated, I'm still going to give everyone arbitrary rules for when they can leave their homes, what they're allowed to do, and what they have to wear, so they're already used to obeying the government when the next crisis hits. The upcoming Biden administration agrees and says they will form a new committee to decide which rights people are allowed to exercise each day based on science and especially arbitrary whims. This will replace the current custom of people having all the rights all the time and able to use them willy-nilly, which is an impediment whenever the government decides to assert control and danger to everyone's health. Tongue in cheek, but folks, this really is what we're looking at.
Right.
Math is a control device. So why, in heaven's name, why did you jump into this fray, brother? You got 4 children. You come on, you got to take care of them. You got to make sure everything's okay with them, and let the rest of the world take care of themselves.
Right. Well, I think I disagree with that. I think as a believer, we're called to be bold in our proclamation of truth. Jesus said, what was it in John 8? I think he said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." I think he suggests there that there's an inseparable link between truth and liberty, right? And and he also said, when the scriptures also say, when the righteous rule, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people grumble. And a part of righteousness is being truthful, right? That's an indicator of goodness, is being truthful. And one of the challenges we the people have is, I don't know what I can believe that's being propagated across the airwaves, whether it's internet websites, news broadcasts, government dictates, governors making proclamations. Our own governor, back in March, she said 3 weeks to stop the curve. And then 6 months later, the Supreme Court finally said, hey, you kind of overextended your executive authority 4 months later. But then now they found other ways to manipulate Michigan law so that it's not the governor making the order, but it's the Department of Health. Thankfully, we're in a county where local law enforcement is more apt towards individual liberty than edicts that come from Lansing. So that I'm thankful for. Why did I get into public service or to serve in public office? Well, it's that whole, when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. I've been made righteous through the blood of Christ. It's washed me and cleansed me. That old life's passed away. The new life, behold, I've been made new. I have a heart that desires to serve my community. I've been serving my community the whole 7 years I've been up here. I was on another local board for 6 years. I think this is a natural continuation of that. Local laws are more apt to significantly impact our daily lives here within the city than stuff that comes down from Lansing or Washington usually. And I want to be part of that. Hopefully making positive change and helping our city to grow and overcome the obstacles that it's facing. Our little city still hasn't recovered fully its property values from the 2008 crash. That, of course, affects income through property taxes, and then there's the challenge: does the city want to raise taxes or to keep its budget, because costs have gone through the roof in the last 12 years for the same services. So just try to keep the city on a good path, make it a viable place for businesses to want to come and invest and grow their businesses, and for people to move to, because one of the unintended consequences that I think may be very positive for the general population of the COVID lockdowns is businesses are realizing, we don't need these high dollar Manhattan offices anymore. Right. Our people can be just as productive working from home. And with the advent of high-speed internet across, even in small towns like mine, man, wouldn't it? I bet there's countless people who would want to get out of the hectic of a big city and the confusion that's there with all these rules during COVID and come out to a smaller town. Our town's 8,500 people. It's quiet. It's got everything you need to live and pursue that happiness.
How many city council members are there?
There's 8 city council members. There's 4 wards. I'm in ward number 4, and there's 2 council members per ward. It's a 4-year term, and every other election cycle, one of the council members for that ward is up.
Interesting. 8. That's. Would you qualify, or can you qualify it? Do you see it as conservative, middle of the road, liberal, or is that a question?
Hillsdale county is conservative. Always votes Republican pretty strongly. There's always Democratic challengers, not necessarily at the council level, but at the state rep level, at the federal representative level. But typically Hillsdale County is the solid Reagan blue or red now.
Okay. But, you're a writer.
Yeah.
What spurred your interest in you? Well, you have 4 children. Is that correct?
Yeah, 4 children. 19. My boys are bookends, 19 and 12, and then my girls are 17 and 14.
Okay.
Or 15. She's 15 now. Sorry.
Alrighty.
And go ahead.
You've been at Hillsdale how long?
We moved up here in 2013 in July to put our kids in Hillsdale Academy. Hillsdale Academy is a K through 12 private school that's attached. It's like under the umbrella of Hillsdale College, although it's its own institution. So has its own budget, its own fundraising, all that good stuff.
They have incredible schooling. I couldn't.
It's a classical education that, where my kids read Homer. They read the Screw Tape letters.
Who's Homer?
Who's Homer? Iliad and Odyssey. These are books that I was not required to read in my public school education in the 80s. And I've been introduced to them through my children's education because I've read a lot of the books. My daughter read The Robe. I don't know if you've ever read that. That is a magnificent tale, and it follows the path of the robe that the Romans cast lots for when Christ went to the cross. And it interacts all these stories, and the Roman who actually won the robe in the casting of lots for the robe after they stripped Christ, it follows his journey and how the robe affected his life. It's a magnificent book. That segues me back to the mask mandate. I wrote about this a while ago, and the reason I write is because our voice matters. One of my favorite scriptures is in Acts 4, and it's a prayer. And so the apostles had been arrested and thrown in jail and persecuted for speaking in the name of Jesus, and they were threatened as they were released to no longer speak in this name. And so they go into a prayer meeting afterwards, and their prayer is recorded in Acts 4, I think 24. And they say, now, Lord, consider their threats. So the threats were don't speak in the name of Jesus anymore. And continue to grant your servants to speak your word with boldness, while you stretch out your hand to heal with signs and wonders through the name of your holy servant, Jesus. And what I love about that is they said, Lord, help us to continue to be bold to do what we've been called to do. And we trust you to continue to do what you promised you'd be faithful to do. And when I was in Texas, I was at a really large congregation, a very healthy, strong church. And this was a self-imposed thing. It wasn't something the church did, at least not intentionally. It's the way that I may have interpreted the thing, but I felt like I was white noise, and so I didn't speak up as loudly. But that's not true. That's a lie. We're not white noise. We've all been created in the image of God, male and female, just the two, by the way. And you're one or the other. You have an X and an X or an X and a Y. It doesn't matter what you cut off or what you put on. You're still one or the other. So I just like to inject that real quick just for clarity's sake, because I know our culture can be confused sometimes. But I have a voice. God's given me a voice. God's given me his word to read and reflect, which inspires me to all truth. God has, because of my faith, he's opened my eyes to how exceptional these United States are, the rarity of our condition as the general population in world history, the rarity. I mean, I would dare say never before in world history have so many enjoyed so much for so long. And that compels me to write and to speak out, and hopefully to encourage others that read or hear to raise their voices and say, you know what? Enough's enough. Yeah, I elected you, but you're not following I'm not going to vote for you again. You know what? I can see the person that's running for council doesn't hold some of my same values. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. I want to affect my city, whether it's 8,500 or 850,000. We still, if we'll do the work, have a voice. And the Lord, for those of us who believe, the kingdom of God suffers violence, and violent men take it by force. What does that mean? That means we should be bold and take action, not necessarily, use physical violence. I don't think we should ever resort to that if as least not offensively, because
just taking action is bold this day and age. Just taking any act, telling the truth,
right,
gets you in trouble.
Right.
I mean, big trouble. If you tell the truth, you're going to offend somebody, and you're going to discriminate against them because you're telling the truth. but seriously, I mean, we are so expensive. I can't remember. Oh shoot, I had an article around here. I think it was, yeah. NFL announcer apologizes for perceived sexist comments during broadcast. From the New York Post, Chris Collinsworth is facing backlash for saying he was blown away by some woman's knowledge of football during a Wednesday afternoon's broadcast of the Steelers-Ravens game. I mean, that is unimaginable.
Right.
I mean, really, we're getting upset. This guy could lose his job over that.
Right.
Really?
Well, it's I'm sure you've heard the term. It's not unique to me, but virtue signaling. It's a term, so we have been so prosperous. So this leads me to another thought, but we've been so prosperous for so long that we have to find things. We have to create things to be offended about. For example, I'm 48. I was growing up, through the 80s when AIDS came out and was this huge ordeal, and so many people were getting infected, and so they were. The cry was what? For homosexual rights, quote unquote, which that's a whole other thing. Well, homosexuals are accepted in our society as a culture. I don't particularly accept the lifestyle, but that's another story or for another time. But what I'm saying is, now it's what they got their rights. So then transgenders or whatever, LGBTQ, they keep adding acronyms in there because they keep expanding it, and then it explodes into this this hedonism and this apostasy from the foundations of our government, which are for a moral and religious people.
Right.
And Adam said it's wholly inadequate for the government of any other. And so for me, as a moral and religious man, and the religion of the Christian faith that's rooted in the Judaic, historical narrative and their that foundation, for me, I got to stand up and I got to say, hey, homosexuality is a sin. It just is. Hey, there's only two genders. This is what actually prompted me to write for Mr. Massey, for him to include me on his website. I had written this, I'm trying to pull it up here. I had it on my computer. I wrote my first posting, I wrote "In the Name of Christ, Stop." And it was inspired because I had heard Reagan, a speech of Reagan's back, I think his speech was from 1984, I don't remember. And I think it might have been his State of the Union or something. And he touched on a man named Telemachus, who was a monk. And this monk was from somewhere in the country in Italy, and he felt like the Lord told him to go to Rome, and he goes to Rome and finds himself taken into the Colosseum during where the gladiators fight to the death, and there's 50,000 fans, and he starts yelling, "In the name of Christ, stop," and nobody can hear him, and he's so passionate about trying to stop the bloodshed that he actually finds his way down, crawls over the wall and onto the field, and there's a hush that comes over the crowd until they hear him say, "In the name of Christ, stop." And then they start mocking and jeering him, and he comes and he confronts the gladiators, and one of the gladiators thrusts him through with a sword and kills him. And the end of that story is that the place got completely silent. The Roman Colosseum with 50,000 people, which if you've ever been in a Colosseum with 50,000 people, to get completely silent is it takes quite an event for that to happen.
Yep.
And then they start leaving, and the record is that was the last time gladiators met in the Colosseum for battle. I haven't verified that, but that's what I've read accounts for that. And so I said, "In the name of Christ, stop murdering children before they're born. Stop abusing our young men and women with pornography and sexual slavery. Stop the trafficking. Stop the narcotic abuse." And I just went on, and I wanted to publish that. And I sent it to a few publications, and Mr. Massey responded and was gracious enough to post it. And I started writing monthly. And then I asked him, "Hey, I want to write weekly because of that boldness that I pray about that's out of Acts. Continue to grant your servants to speak your word with boldness." And I want to be bold to keep speaking the truth, because I believe what our founders believed, that our liberty is more important than my life. And I believe the propagation of the gospel is also more important than my life. There are things that are more important than me taking another breath. And that's the propagation of the gospel of Christ, wherein if you were confess that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart God raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. And that we are in a land of liberty where I can make decisions to work and to go and come as I please, at least up until December, what is today? December 5th, 2020. We'll see what happens next week. But as far as right now, we still have the liberty to come and go and travel between states for the most part. Although the infringement of those liberties, you know, I flew down to Dallas for Thanksgiving to spend time with my in-laws, and my family went down. We found a fantastic $87 round trip tickets on American, which was unbelievable because
Robert,
it's
can
so
you
inexpensive.
hold that thought for a sec? We're gonna have to take a quick
Yeah,
break.
yeah.
And then get back. Okay, so hang there with us.
You got me on a roll.
Yeah, I know. BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. Your last call.
Last call.
Soccer player, Sarah Fuller, who was used as a publicity stunt during a men's college football game. As I understand it, and not won a game all season. They're short players, Chinese virus. They brought on to gin up some interest in their loud team. She kicked the ball near the yard. Say it was an intentional squib kick strategically. That doesn't actually make any sense, but never mind. She then ran around the field before she could get hurt. No, I'm not saying anything against this young lady's athletic abilities. She's apparently a top-tier women's soccer player, and good for her. She actually came out afterward and told reporters she had made a locker room speech to the team because she was angry at their lack of enthusiasm. And for those of you who know anything about sports, a one-time 30-yard who makes a locker room speech would have to be a woman, because if she were a man, the other guys would beat the crap out of him. This is no way to treat a lady. It's condescending and it's insulting. It reduces an excellent athlete to a freak show anomaly for the purpose of a sick leftist neurosis that hates the human race as God made it. Every signal women receive from this twisted, broken society we're in, every signal they receive tells them that if they follow the dreams of womanhood, they're nothing. Only male success is success. Only male values of strength and career and competition are the right values. It's a disgusting assault on the feminine, which is half of human life. Sarah Fuller knows she can't compete on a field with comparable male athletes any more than a female swordswoman in the Middle Ages can compete against comparable men in a real-life battle. But now she has to make believe she's something she's not in order to earn the mock respect of people who despise what she actually is and would dump her the very second she disagreed with their crap politics. We need to take a closer look at the social mechanisms that allow a small group of angry, twisted perverts to set the social rules that ruin the lives of young people and strip them of the great and uplifting consolations of being men and women, the masculine and feminine halves of the crowning work of God's creation, humankind. The condescension and lies about women.
Just a little sports note there, folks. We talked about sports earlier. We're on the phone with Robert Soho, and Robert is a city councilman in Michigan. And by the way, for the record, a representative here in Ohio has initiated impeachment charges against Governor Mike DeWine here. And I called his office, and I called my representative's office and senator's office, and wanted to encourage them to do so. No, that's some of the things that we don't do. I mean, they're as you're doing your job in city council, you're going to want to hear from people, and not just the complainers. The complainers are easy. I mean, you're going to have a just full chart full of them. But for people to call you and encourage you, I like what you did, Robert. I think that was a good thing to do.
That's a big deal. Yeah.
We don't do enough of that. And that's why I want to drop that, because of what you're doing and what I did, to be honest with you. And I not only did that, I emailed about 70 people that I know they're in the Ohio area, and I asked them to do the same thing. But here's the problem. I only got return emails from 3 of them that said they did
right.
something. The other ones, not so much. I don't know. I mean, maybe they did it and didn't bother to get back with me. I'm not sure about that. But we can't win the game unless we show up and participate. And we have cheerleaders and we have fans in the stands. Well, I'm sorry. We used to have cheerleaders and fans in the stand for a reason.
Right. Oh my gosh. I mean, I've never been a sports addict. You know, I enjoyed the game now and again. I loved watching the Super Bowl, especially when I really cared about a team that was playing. But the way that they've politicized it, I refuse to watch. And I stopped watching the NBA after a Mavericks Heats game in, I think, 2008 because the officiating was terrible. I mean, Dwayne Wade outscored the entire Mavericks team in the last 5 minutes, 18-5, and they lost that game.
Amazing.
He would get the Mavericks would look at him wrong, and the whistle would blow. And Dirk Nowitzki was going the other way, getting hammered, and there was no whistles. And I thought it was political because Mark Cuban had been vocal that year about the terrible officiating. And I mean, here's a classic example. And then they were up 2-0. We're up by 13 points with 5 minutes left in game 3 and ended up losing 3, 4, 5, and 6. But yeah, that quarter. And so I was just like, I'm done. Thankfully in 2011, which I did watch that because they had a rematch, they won, they beat the Heat, but which I'm glad for. But for professional sports, trying to tell me, you know, these men who earn hundreds of thousands, if not tens of millions of dollars to throw or kick a ball, to lecture me on suffering is very disingenuous, to be polite. And you know, here's my this takes me to a great point that Dinesh D'Souza makes very eloquently, but and it's one of the challenges we face in our country, and that is the left. You know, their ideas are very compassionate sometimes, but the way that they want to enforce it through government edict and the potential loss of liberty if you don't pay your taxes or do whatever is a terrible way. The way that I think our country was designed, the reason why we're the most philanthropic, magnanimous country ever to have existed, the reason why institutions like the Red Cross exist, you know, and are global in their nature and have shamed our adversaries across the world, especially the some Muslim countries, which, you know, they formed the Red Crescent. Why did they form the Red Crescent? Because the Red Cross exists, not because it was something that their culture wanted to create, but because the Red Cross was an example of magnanimity and they needed to emulate that for the public perception. It's the same reason when the Muslims conquered Istanbul, and the reason that Constantinople back in the day, because the Byzantines had been weakened by the Crusaders coming across to free the Holy Land, which they only freed for like 100 years. It wasn't a long time that the Crusaders held the Holy Land. But when the Ottoman Empire took over Constantinople, as I remember, I visited the Hagia Sophia back in 1998, and it was a magnificent church that was built. And the man who built it, when he was finished, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but I do remember what he said when he entered the church. He said, "Lord, thank you for allowing your servant to have embarked on such a great endeavor. O Solomon, I've outdone you." And so if you remember Solomon's temple, you know, the gold and silver was laid in the temple to the knees. It was so deep. It was just speaking to the temple's opulence. And the Hagia Sophia, which unfortunately had to be destroyed this year because of it became structurally unsound, because that's a long story. But when the Ottomans conquered Constantinople, they saw this church that the Christians built as a temple to their God. And the account that I read about the Hagia Sophia back in 1998 stated that the Muslims at the time had nothing and they were shamed because of it. And so they started building mosques as temples to their god, and they built what's called the Blue Mosque, which still stands there in Istanbul today, right across the courtyard. So back until this year, you have the Blue Mosque on one side of the courtyard and the Hagia Sophia on the other side of the courtyard. And it's a pretty magnificent courtyard and beautiful park that in between the two buildings there in downtown Istanbul. But that's the Christian tradition. What I'm alluding to is the beauty, the music, the art, the value of life, that the Christian tradition emboldens, that Christ said in John 3:16, which everybody knows. He said, whosoever will. That was a radical statement, right? And what did that do? That took the aristocracy and the common man and made them equal and said, whosoever will believe will be saved. And we can fast forward 2,000 years, 1,800 years, to Jefferson's penning in the Constitution, which I think he stole it from Locke, because Locke would have wrote about that back in the 1600s. But we find these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and property, which was amended to the pursuit of happiness, because the founders knew that without private property rights, you can't have individual liberty. And, when I wrote about that, I noticed somebody put it in the chat, and I appreciate that. My latest is about freedom, right? We watched Holiday Inn this weekend, and Bing Crosby sings about this song of freedom, that all God's children would be free. And it just stirred something in my soul and in the conversation in our home, that our country's so wonderful that we used to sing about this, that the freedom would ring, and we would intentionally write and celebrate the fact that, yeah, our country started with slavery, but let's not look at that. Let's look at, what did our country do? We spent 600,000 lives to eradicate that scourge. That's good. That's amazing sacrifice that our country made to end the terrible scourge of slavery. That's something that should be celebrated. That's something that should be shouted from the rooftops. We should celebrate the fact that our brothers in England, through William Wilberforce's tireless efforts, they ended slavery, which compelled us, and through the writings of books like Uncle Tom's Cabin, compelled us to end the terrible scourge of slavery. That's something that really upsets me too, is that Black people who tend towards conservatism are called Uncle Toms. Uncle Tom was the hero of that story, and I, as a badge of honor, I think if my skin had more melanin in it, that I might, as a badge of honor, be called an Uncle Tom. I think we should try to take that back for our Black brothers and sisters who, like Michael Massey or Candace Owens, who are or the late Walter Williams, God rest his soul, who are standing, and their eyes have been opened and are boldly proclaiming this truth, and we shouldn't be ashamed to proclaim it. As white people, we shouldn't be ashamed to say Black, or to correct others when they're notably wrong. We should be bold.
I agree with you. By the way, I want to make a note here. Walter Williams, an incredible conservative, did pass away this week, and you kind of alluded to it. And that's a big loss for our team. That really is a big loss for our team. You'd mentioned early on about the good intentions of liberals, and there's
right.
There's an old expression that the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right.
And that's
so the reason I said that is because, and I didn't finish because I got segued, so forgive me for that. It's been a while since I've been on a radio show, so I'm kind of rambling, but I'm enjoying the effort, and I appreciate the freedom to do so. And I really thank you again for the invitation, and I look forward to getting to know you better and hopefully continuing this conversation. But
we will, and I want to put a plug in. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, but natural law. When you have a conversation with somebody, and society's been trained, once you hear about the Bible, Jesus Christ, you just turn it off. But if you have conversations with them about natural law, it's a
Right.
totally different, and you're talking about the Bible at the same time, because what the Bible says is confirmed by natural law, and what natural law says is confirmed by the Bible. And I wanted to get that in there because that overrides the good intentions thing. All right, how does this fit into nature? Does it fit naturally? Then bingo, we go with it. Go ahead.
Well, so the point is, the left has these good intentions, and if they have their good intentions, that's fine. Like, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but let's just say food stamps. All right, so there's people who are on food stamps, and because they're theoretically having a hard time, and can't make ends meet, and so, well, is that really the government's responsibility to ensure there's food on my table? I would argue that that's not the government's responsibility. Great. Just like it's not the government's responsibility to send me a ballot. Amen. Unsolicited.
Amen.
It's not the government's responsibility that I vote. That's my responsibility because I'm sovereign. And if I don't exercise my right to vote, well, that's my choice. It's not the government's hand to force me to, or try to compel me to vote. They should encourage the vote, but they shouldn't force or compel me to vote. And at the same time, they should encourage me to be thrifty and a good steward of the funds that are available to me, that I might spend them properly to feed myself and my family, to clothe us, to cover our heads with shelter. That's my responsibility. The government shouldn't be handing me money. Now, if I see a need as an individual and I see you struggling right now, you can't pay your mortgage, or you don't have any food in the pantry, then out of the generosity of my heart, and I say, hey, come, let me fill your pantry, then that's exactly what I should do as a sovereign with my own money at my discretion, not send it into the coffers of the government, who then have to pay a bureaucratic, bureaucracy to
have 5 minutes.
Administrate
5 minutes,
it.
brother. 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Go for it.
There's so much. Oh my goodness.
What you're talking about is that there are three institutions for the benefit of man: the family, the church, and the state. And we've almost turned everything over to the state. When an issue comes out, you see it on the news media. What's the first thing the news media says? The government needs to either get more involved with it or do it better. That's right. Don't even talk about the family. Don't even talk about the church. And as far as the church goes, they're sitting back and going, okay, we don't have anything to do here. That's well, I think that's sinful. Sorry.
It's not. I mean, 3 minutes. So the church, unfortunately, abdicated its responsibility to be the benefactors to those in need in these United States. Started in the late 50s, I think 58, and then in 63 were those terrible Supreme Court decisions about prayer in school. And that really goes back to 1917 when they changed the Constitution with the 17th Amendment, and or 1913, I can't remember which year it was, but that elected senators but that's a whole other thing, and that created the Fed, and we've just been on a downward spiral because the government's now able to print money, and then what Benjamin Franklin warned: once the people can vote themselves monies from the public treasury, they'll never cease from doing it. And so what do? We need to re-educate ourselves as a culture that it's not the government's responsibility to hold our hand from cradle to grave and make sure that we're provided for. It's our responsibility to do that for ourselves, and it's our responsibility if we see somebody in need, and that compassion that compels us to force others to pay their taxes so food stamps can be given, that same compassion should be for us to dig into our own pockets and help those that we see are in need.
Great. Hey, Robert, I really appreciate you being on today. Robert Soho, and he writes for Michael Massey, that's MyChal -MASSIE.com. michaelmassey.com, michaelmassey.com. Robert's a doer. That's why we have him on the program today. And it's going to be interesting to follow his new vocation and see how those works out. There'll be challenges, tremendous challenges, but they're all growth opportunities, Robert. We will talk a lot more off air. I'm going to try to twist your arm with regards to the Natural Family Foundation. So that's fair warning.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. I did sign that.
I know you did, and I appreciate that. Again, thank you.
Hey, why don't you mention that again real quick? What did I sign? The oath
Natural
that I
Family
signed?
Pledge. If you go to naturalfamilystrong.com, see, he's working for us already, Mr. Anderson. You go to the naturalfamilystrong.com. Look for the what's that called? The pledge? Look for a pledge. It's not a financial pledge, folks. It's just a confirmation that you got sense enough to know what the natural family is about and how important it is. If we don't fix the family first, I'm sorry, nothing else is going to work. Robert, thank you for participating today. We'll get you back on soon. Keep writing. You had a nice article about Christmas. I loved it. I recommend folks go to it and read it. I think it's great.
Thank you.
A great idea. Thanks again.
It's my pleasure, and I'm grateful for the invitation. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. God bless you, brother.
You too.
What a show today. I'm so encouraged. The young ladies, what they're doing, and the parents behind them, and the father that was hiding behind the camera, which I'm going to have to bring out. We can't allow that to happen. If I got to be on the air, Gary, you got to be on the air. I'm sorry. It just works that way. Anyway, they were a blessing. Robert's a blessing.
Oh, yeah, amazing guest today. Look, I got your back and you got my back.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm looking at the pictures there.
I see that.
Anyway, yeah, great to hear from people like Robert and the girls and the families. I'm a little. Oh, I would like to see my granddaughters step up like that, about the same age as those girls. And
well, I don't have any problem with you sharing the show with them, Mr. Anderson. I mean, you're welcome to do that. As a matter of fact, let me recommend to all of you that you share this show, either half. You share that show with somebody, because this is encouraging people to do. It's easy to get that information and go, yeah, there really is a problem. Let me get back with you next week because I'm kind of busy this week. That's not going to, if I know from sales that you never let that individual say, let me get back with you, because it ain't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. If they're interested, then you need to get them committed now, not tomorrow, not the next day. And if they're thinking about it, what they're telling you is, well, I'm not interested. I just don't know exactly how to tell you yet. So give me more time. It's we, the people, we must engage this culture because we're losing it rapidly. And I believe that starts in the family, but I'm willing to work with other organizations to help them help us. But come on, seriously, folks, the family is the foundation of all civilizations. You hear it all the time. Naturalfamilystrong.com. Help us by going there and signing our pledge if you haven't already. It's very important.
It won't cost you a dime.
Yep. I'm going to be speaking probably next week on behalf of a family in Montana. And if I'm speaking on behalf of the Natural Family Foundation, and we've got 3 million people that have signed a pledge, which we're not even close to that. But if I had 3 million people signing a pledge and I'm representing that organization, how much more effect do you think I could have? Oh, we're not asking for money. We're just asking you to sign a simple pledge and then get your neighbors to sign it, because we need those millions. If 74 or 73 million people can vote for Donald Trump, we got to be able to get 3 million people to say, yeah, I'm committed to the family. And you better be committed to it, because if the family breaks, which it is, then the rest of society cracks. As goes the family, so goes the church. As goes the family, so goes business. So goes education. We're coming up to a challenge in the year 2021. And if we don't have politicians, if we don't have business people, if we don't have educators, if we don't have pastors pushing hard to restore the family, to get it to grow, to make it the vision in America, Katie, bar the door. We're going to go where all other organizations have gone, all over countries, and that's by the wayside, in the dumpster of history. B.J. Edwards along, Mr. Anderson. Thanks for listening to us today.
Join us next week for Last Call with B.J. Edwards.